371. We unintelligible ones. Have we ever complained among ourselves of being misunderstood, misjudged, and confounded with others? Of being calumniated, misheard, and not heard? That is just our lot. Alas, for a long time yet. Say, to be modest, until 1901. It is also our distinction. We should not have sufficient respect for ourselves if we wished it otherwise. People confound us with others. The reason of it is that we ourselves grow. We change continually. We cast off old bark. We still slough every spring. We always become younger, higher, stronger, as men of the future. We thrust our roots always more powerfully into the deep, into evil, while at the same time we embrace the heavens ever more lovingly, more extensively, and suck in their light ever more eagerly with all our branches and leaves. We grow like trees. That is difficult to understand. Like all life, not in one place, but everywhere. Not in one direction only, but upwards and outwards, as well as inwards and downwards. At the same time, our force shoots forth in stem, branches, and roots. We are really no longer free to do anything separately, or to be anything separately. Such is our lot, as we have said. We grow in height, and even should it be our calamity, for we dwell ever closer to the lightning, well, we honor it with none the less on that account. It is that which we do not wish to share with others, which we do not wish to bestow upon others, the fate of all elevation. Our fate. 372. Why we are not idealists. Formerly, philosophers were afraid of the senses. Have we perhaps been far too forgetful of this fear? We are at present all of us sensualists. We representatives of the present and of the future in philosophy. Not according to theory, however, but in praxis, in practice. Those former philosophers, on the contrary, thought that the senses lured them out of their world, the cold realm of ideas, to a dangerous southern island, where they were afraid that their philosopher virtues would melt away like snow in the sun. Wax in the ears was then almost a condition of philosophizing. A genuine philosopher no longer listens to life insofar as life is music. He denied the music of life. It is an old philosophical superstition that all music is sirens' music. We should be inclined at the present day to judge precisely in the opposite manner, which himself might be just as false, and to regard ideas with their cold anemic appearance, and not even in spite of this appearance, as worse seducers than the senses. They have always lived on the blood of the philosopher. They always consumed his senses, and indeed, and if you will believe me, his heart as well. Those old philosophers were heartless. Philosophizing was always a species of vampirism. At the sight of such figures even as Spinoza, do you not feel a profoundly enigmatical and disquieting sort of impression? Do you not see the drama which is here performed? The constantly increasing pallor, the spiritualization always more ideally displayed. Do you not imagine some long-concealed bloodsucker in the background, which makes its beginning with the senses and in the end retains or leaves behind nothing but bones and their rattling? I mean categories, formula, and words, for you will pardon me in saying that what remains of Spinoza, a more intellectualist day, is rattling and nothing more. What is amor? What is this deus, when they have lost every drop of blood? In summa, all philosophical idealism has hitherto been something like a disease, where it has not been, in the case of Plato, the prudence of superabundant and dangerous healthfulness, the fear of overpowerful senses, and the wisdom of a wise Socratic. Perhaps it is the case that we moderns are merely not sufficiently sound to require Plato's idealism, and we do not fear the senses because 373. Science as prejudice. It follows from the laws of class distinction that the learned, insofar as they belong to the intellectual middle class, are debarred from even getting a sight of the really great problems and notes of interrogation. Besides, their courage, and similarly their outlook, does not reach so far. And above all, their need, which makes them investigators, their innate anticipation and desire that things should be constituted in such and such a way, their fears and hopes are too soon quieted and set at rest. For example, that which makes the pedantic Englishman, Herbert Spencer, so enthusiastic in his way, and impels him to draw a line of hope, a horizon of desirability, the final reconciliation of egoism and altruism, of which he dreams, that almost causes nausea to people like us, a humanity with such Spencerian perspective as ultimate perspectives would seem to us deserving of contempt, of extermination. But the fact that something has to be taken by him as his highest hope, which is regarded, and may well be regarded by others merely as a distasteful possibility, is a note of interrogation which Spencer could not have foreseen. It is just the same with the belief with which at present so many materialistic natural scientists are content. This belief in a world which is supposed to have its equivalent and measure in human thinking and human valuations, a world of truth, at which we might be able ultimately to arrive with the help of our insignificant, four-cornered human reason. What? Do we actually wish to have existence debased in that fashion, to a steady reckoner exercise in calculation for stay-at-home mathematicians? We should not, above all, seek to divest existence of its ambiguous character. Good taste forbids it, gentlemen. The taste of reverence for everything that goes beyond your horizon. That a world interpretation is alone right by which you maintain your position, by which investigation and work can go on scientifically in your sense. You really mean mechanically? An interpretation which acknowledges numbering, calculating, weighing, seeing, and handling, and nothing more. Such an idea is a piece of grossness and naivety, provided it is not lunacy and idiocy. Would the reverse not be quite probable, that the most superficial and external characters of existence, its most apparent qualities, reality, its outside, its embodiment, should let themselves be apprehended first, perhaps alone allow themselves to be apprehended, a scientific interpretation of the world as you understand it might consequently be one of the stupidest, that is to say, the most destitute of significance of all possible world interpretations. I say this in confidence to my friends, the mechanicians, who today like to hobnob with philosophers and absolutely believe that mechanics is the teaching of the first and last laws upon which, as upon a ground floor, all existence must be built. But an essentially mechanical world would be an essentially meaningless world. Supposing we valued the worth of a music with reference to how much it could be counted, calculated, or formulated, how absurd such a scientific estimate of music would be. What would one have apprehended, understood, or discerned in it? Nothing, absolutely nothing of what is really music in it. 374. Our new infinite. How far the perspective character of existence extends, or whether it have any other character at all, whether an existence without explanation, without sense, does not just become nonsense, whether, on the other hand, all existence is not essentially an explaining existence. These questions, as is right and proper, cannot be determined even by the most diligent and severely conscientious analysis and self-examination of the intellect, because in this analysis the human intellect cannot avoid seeing itself in its perspective forms and only in them. We cannot see round our corner. It is hopeless curiosity to want to know what other modes of intellect and perspective there might be. For example, whether any kind of being could perceive time backwards or alternately forwards and backwards, by which another direction of life and another conception of cause and effect would be given. But I think that we are today at least far from the ludicrous immodesty of decreeing from our nook that there can be only legitimate perspectives from that nook. The world, on the contrary, has once more become infinite to us, insofar we cannot dismiss the possibility that it contains infinite interpretations. Once more the great horror seizes us, but who would desire forthwith to deify once more this monster of an unknown world in the old fashion, and perhaps worship the unknown thing as the unknown person in future? Ah, there are too many ungodly possibilities of interpretation comprised in this unknown. Too much devilment, stupidity, and folly of interpretation. Our own human, all too human interpretation itself, which we know. 376. Our slow periods. It is thus that artists feel, and all men of works, the maternal species of men. They always believe at every chapter of their life, a work always makes a chapter that they have now reached the goal itself. They would always patiently accept death with the feeling we are ripe for it. This is not the expression of exhaustion, but rather that of a certain autumnal sunniness and mildness, which the work itself, the maturing of the work, always leaves behind in its originator. Then the tempo of life slows down, turns thick and flows with honey, into long pauses, into the belief in the long pause. 377. We homeless ones. Among Europeans of today, there are not lacking those who may call themselves homeless ones in a way which is at once a distinction and an honor. It is by them that my secret wisdom and Gaia Scienza is specially to be laid to heart. For their lot is hard, their hope uncertain, but it is a clever feat to devise consolation for them. But what good does it do? We children of the future, how could we be at home in the present? We are unfavorable to all ideals which could make us feel at home in this frail, broken down transition period. And as regards the realities thereof, we do not believe in their endurance. The ice which still carries has become very thin. The thawing wind blows. We ourselves, the homeless ones, are an agency that breaks the ice and the other two thin realities. We preserve nothing, nor would we return to any past stage. We are not at all liberal, we do not labor for progress. We do not need first to stop our ears to the song of the marketplace and the sirens of the future. Their song of equal rights, free society, no longer either lords or slaves, does not allure us. We do not by any means think it desirable that the kingdom of righteousness and peace should be established on earth, because under any circumstances it would be the kingdom of the profoundest mediocrity and Chinism. We rejoice in all men who, like ourselves, love danger, war, and adventure, who do not make compromises, nor let themselves be captured, conciliated, and stunted. We count ourselves among the conquerors. We ponder over the need of a new order of things, even of a new slavery. For every strengthening and elevation of the type man also involves a new form of slavery. Is it not obvious that with all this we must feel ill at ease in an age which claims the honor of being the most humane, gentle, and just that the sun has ever seen? What a pity that at the mere mention of these fine words, the thoughts at the bottom of our hearts are all the more unpleasant, that we see therein only the expression or the masquerade of profound weakening, exhaustion, age, and declining power. What can it matter to us with what kind of tinsel an invalid decks out his weakness? He may parade it as his virtue. There is no doubt whatever that weakness makes people gentle. Alas, so gentle, so inoffensive, so humane. The religion of pity, to which people would like to persuade us. Yes, we know sufficiently well the hysterical little men and women who need this religion at present as a cloak and adornment. We are no humanitarians. We should not dare to speak of our love of humankind, for that a person of our stamp is not enough of an actor, nor sufficiently Saint Simonist, not sufficiently French. A person must have been affected with the Gallic excess of erotic susceptibility and amorous impatience, even to approach mankind honorably with his lewdness. Mankind! Was there ever a more hideous old woman among all old women? Unless perhaps it were the truth, a question for philosophers. No, we do not love mankind. On the other hand, however, we are not nearly German enough, in the sense in which the word German is current at present, to advocate nationalism and race hatred, or take delight in the national heart itch and blood poisoning, on account of which the nations of Europe are at present bounded off and secluded from one another, as if by quarantines. We are too unprejudiced for that, too perverse, too fastidious, also too well informed, and too much traveled. We prefer much rather to live on mountains, apart and out of season, in past or coming centuries in order merely to spare ourselves the silent rage to which we know we should be condemned as witnesses of a system of politics which makes the German nation barren by making it vain, which is a petty system besides. Will it not be necessary for this system to plant itself between two immortal hatreds, lest its own creation should immediately collapse? Will it not be obliged to desire the perpetuation of the petty state system of Europe? We homeless ones are too diverse and mixed in race and descent for modern men, and are consequently little tempted to participate in the falsified racial self-admiration and lewdness which at present display themselves in Germany as signs of German sentiment, and which strike one as doubly false and unbecoming in the people with the historical sense. We are, in a word, and it shall be our word of honor, good Europeans, the heirs of Europe, the rich, over-wealthy heirs, but too deeply obligated heirs of millenniums of European thought. As such, we have also outgrown Christianity and are disinclined to it. And just because we have grown out of it, because our forefathers were Christians, uncompromising in their Christian integrity, who willingly sacrificed possessions and positions, blood and country, for the sake of their belief, we do the same. For what then? For our unbelief? For all sorts of unbelief? Nay, you know better than that, my friends. The hidden yea in you is stronger than all the nays and perhapses of which you and your age are sick. And when you are obliged to put out to sea, you immigrants, it is once more faith which urges you thereto. 378. And once more grow clear. We, the generous and rich in spirit, who stand at the sides of the streets like open fountains, and would hinder no one from drinking from us, we do not know, alas, how to defend ourselves when we should like to do so. We have no means of preventing ourselves being made turbid and dark. We have no means of preventing the age in which we live casting its up-to-date rubbish into us, or of hindering filthy birds throwing their excrement, the boys their trash, and fatigued resting travelers their misery, great and small, into us. But we do as we have always done, we take whatever is cast into us down into our depths. For we are deep, we do not forget, and once more grow clear. 379. The Fool's Interruption. It is not a misanthrope who has written this book. The hatred of men costs too dear today. To hate as they formerly hated man, in the fashion of time and completely, without qualification, with all the heart, from the pure love of hatred. For that purpose one would have to renounce contempt. And how much refined pleasure, how much patience, how much benevolence even do we owe to contempt. Moreover, we are thereby the elect of God. Refined contempt is our taste and privilege, our art, our virtue perhaps. We, the most modern amongst the moderns. Hatred, on the contrary, makes it equal. It puts men face to face. In hatred there is honor. Finally, in hatred there is fear. Quite a large amount of fear. We fearless ones, however, we, the most intellectual men of the period, know our advantage well enough to live without fear as the most intellectual persons of this age. people will not easily behead us, shut us up or banish us. They will not even ban or burn our books. The age loves intellect, it loves us and needs us, even when we have to give it to understand that we are artists in despising, that all intercourse with men is something of a horror to us, that with all our gentleness, patience, humanity, and courteousness, we cannot persuade our nose to abandon its prejudice against the proximity of man, that we love nature the more, the less humanly things are done by her, and that we love art when it is the flight of the artist from man, or the raillery of the artist at man, or the raillery of the artist at himself. (383) Epilogue. But while I slowly finish the painting of this somber interrogation mark, and am still inclined to remind my readers of the virtues of right reading. Oh, what forgotten and unknown virtues! It comes to pass that the wickedest merriest gnome like laughter resounds around me. The spirits of my book themselves pounce upon me, pull me by the ears and call me to order. We cannot endure it any longer, they shout to me. Away, away with this raven black music. Is it not clear morning round about us, and green soft ground and turf? The domain of the dance. Was there ever a better hour in which to be joyful? So who will sing us a song, a morning song, so sunny, so light, and so fledged that it will not scare the tantrums, but will rather invite them to take part in the singing and dancing? And better a simple rustic bagpipe than such weird sounds, such toad croakings, grave voices and marmot pipings, with which you have hitherto regaled us in your wilderness. Mr. Anchorite and musician of the future, no, not such tones, but let us strike something more agreeable and more joyful. You would like to have it so, my impatient friends? Well, who would not willingly accede to your wishes? My bagpipe is waiting, and my voice also. It may sound a little hoarse. Take it as it is. Don't forget we are in the mountains. But what you will hear is at least new, and if you do not understand it, you misunderstand the minstrel. What does it matter? That has always been the minstrel's curse. So much the more distinctly can you hear his music and melody, so much the better also can you dance to his piping. Would you like to do